Hi, my name is Shelby Day.
Hello, my name is Stephen Alexander.
My name is Laura Carpenter.
And we are students in Dr. Strange's EDM 310 class at the University of South Alabama. Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire. And we are assigned the prologue, chapters 1, 2, 12, 13, and the epilogue.
Rafe Esquith has authored many books about teaching. Esquith has a much longer workday than a typical teacher, starting at 6:30 a.m. and not ending until 5 or 6 p.m. And he has said that can't be expected of other teachers. His longer period of time with the students helps him to both cover material that will be on standardized tests and teach topics that he himself is passionate about. He also varies teaching methods within individual classes to reflect differences in the learning style among students.
Esquith also has high expectations of his students, expecting his fifth graders, who are generally from families whose primary language is not English, to study and understand Shakespeare. For example, many of his students, who are all from a community of poor and immigrant families, start class very early, leave late, and typically achieve high scores in standardized tests. His students actually want to learn. Not only do his students have long school days, they also come in on holidays and are given reading assignments considered well beyond the typical fifth grader's reading level. Although Esquith says they are no brighter than typical students. As you can see, his students are very well dedicated to school and their teacher.
Today we are going to discuss topics from the book that our group decided were interesting or that interest us. From Chapter 1, we have Stephen Alexander talking about the trust within the classroom. From the second chapter, Shelby Day is focusing on the levels Esquith teaches. The 12th chapter is led by Laura Carpenter. Stephen, from what you've learned about trust in Chapter 1, how can you apply this to your teaching?
The way I can apply what I've learned in Chapter 1 to my teaching is by establishing trust with my students on the first day. I will be teaching high school, so on the first day of class is when I will go through the syllabus with my students. I will have in big, bold letters a paragraph on trust. Then after we read through the paragraph, my students and I will do a trust exercise. I know it sounds silly, but it's a way to break the ice and also get my point across. Ultimately, I will have to earn the trust with my students through my actions, and they will have to do the same.
So, Shelby, why don't you explain the different levels discussed in Chapter 2?
Elaborating on what Stephen discussed about trust from the first chapter, trust is the first step, the foundation. Lawrence Kohlberg's 6 levels of moral development are the building blocks on which Esquith builds trust. They are simple and easy for young students to comprehend. These 6 levels are a roadmap on which we want to build our students and as people. Level 1 is, I don't want to get in trouble. Many students stay at this level for a while because this is what they are taught from day one and is expected of them. The only thing students learn from this is to fear authority. Instead of fear, Esquith creates a common bond with his students on the first day of class to trust each other and leave Level 1 thinking behind. Level 2 is labeled, I want a reward. As students excel and grow, they learn that what they do is right or is expected of them, and they receive some sort of award. Many teachers use this system because they believe it works, but in the end, students do not learn anything from it. Level 3, I want to please somebody. Students crave attention and approval as they grow up. This is not the way students need to be taught. Students should be doing these good actions and works for approval for themselves, not from the approval of a parent or a teacher. Level 4 is entitled, I follow the rules. Rules are not a bad thing. It is good to teach students boundaries and change these boundaries from time to time with new rules to teach them to adapt. It is good that students know and accept rules, but do they understand how to apply them? Level 5, I am considerate of other people. If everyone would try to understand and consider the rest of the people in the world in their daily life, the world would be a much better understanding place. The final level is Level 6. Level 6 is entitled, I have a personal code of behavior and I follow it. Obviously, this is the most difficult level to teach because it is the highest level. This is also the most difficult level of behavior. This level is teaching students that even though people may think that you're crazy or even look at you funny, that you still need to do the right thing according to your personal code of behavior. When you change the focus from a desire to please someone else or following the rules to that of pleasing yourself and meeting your own set of rules, you are then a level 6 thinker.
Tell us more about Rafe's approach to teaching problem solving.
Rafe explains he is the first to admit he's made countless mistakes in his career, but is constantly making corrections and improvements. He begins each school day around 6:30 a.m., and his objective for starting the school day early is to teach his students the skill of problem solving. Originally, this practice started by accident because he wanted his students to win math competitions periodically held at the school. He finds it to be poetic that the problem-solving sessions start in the dark and end with the coming of light as the sun rises and regular school begins. Rafe uses what he refers to as the Bible. It is merely a sheet of paper taped to the student's desk telling them how to approach solving a problem. The first step on Rafe's plan is to understand the problem. The next step is to choose an appropriate strategy, followed by solving the problem and finally to analyze what was done. A few examples of Rafe's listed appropriate strategies include drawing a picture, the guess and check method, and looking for a pattern. Rafe discourages expressions such as use your head. He explains this saying is simply to have no meaning. He states that as parents and teachers, we must do a better job to help struggling students rather than providing them with meaningless directions. Rafe suggests using mathstories.com to find math problems. He describes it as being a fun website with all sorts of clever and challenging problems. Rafe explains there is nothing wrong with telling a child that you don't know the answer. According to Rafe, good teachers are willing to put in the time and effort.
Esquith has said he advises young teachers never to fight with administrators. Always agree with them. Try to quickly work around the system. Esquith says he rarely fights with anybody in the school because that doesn't help the children. Teachers control only one aspect of a child's education, which is also influenced by the involvement of parents, school administrators, teacher unions, testing services, and textbook publishers, according to Esquith.
As you can see, Esquith is very dedicated to teaching in the classroom. Hopefully in the future we can use some of these helpful tips from the book in our classroom.
Sources used for this podcast were wikipedia.org and Rafe Esquith's book, Teach Like Your Hair's on Fire.